I met her best friend at the store. She's not with me. She said, so I took her to dinner. Pulled every receipt and exposed my wife's secret trip. I ran into my wife's best friend at the store. I smiled and said, funny, my wife told me she was on a trip with you. Her best friend stared at me and said, Jake, I haven't seen her in weeks. That was the moment everything clicked. I smiled again, calmer than I should have been, and asked, how about dinner tonight? Buckle up, because this one was a slow burn that ended exactly the way it needed to end. My wife thought she could play me like a fiddle while I funded her double life. Spoiler alert, she miscalculated. My name is Jake. I'm 34 years old, and I work as an elevator technician in Colorado. I've been doing that work for about 16 years. I started as an apprentice right out of high school, learned the trade the hard way, and worked my way up until I was running my own crew. It's one of those jobs nobody thinks about until they're stuck between floors, pressing the emergency button and praying somebody competent shows up. We install elevators, maintain them, and fix them when they break down at 2 in the morning in some office building downtown. The pay is solid, the work is steady, and I've never had to fake excitement in a meeting about quarterly synergy reports or whatever office people do all day. I bought my first house when I was 27. Nothing fancy, just a 3-bedroom ranch in Aurora with a 2-car garage where I could store my tools and tinker with things on weekends. I paid extra on the mortgage every month because I liked watching the principal balance drop. Some guys spend their money on flashy cars or expensive hobbies. I spent mine on equity stability and peace of mind. I met my wife Hannah at a friend's cookout in 2019. She was wearing a yellow sundress, and she had this laugh that could cut through a crowded room. She worked as an administrative assistant at an insurance company downtown. Nothing glamorous, but she seemed grounded. Seemed is the key word there. Our first date was at a little hole-in-the-wall taco place she had been wanting to try. We sat there for 3 hours talking about everything from childhood pets to which Fast and Furious movie was actually the best. She thought my job was interesting. She asked real questions about how elevators worked and what happened if the cable snapped. Spoiler, they don't just snap and send people dropping like in the movies. There are about 8 backup systems. But what mattered more than the questions was this. She didn't check her phone once. I didn't realize how important that was until much later. For our second date, I took her hiking at Red Rocks. She showed up in proper boots, not fancy sneakers, which told me she had actually listened when I mentioned the terrain. We packed sandwiches, sat out on a ledge, watched the sun go down, and she told me about her dream of traveling through Europe someday. I filed that away for later. By the 5th date, I knew I wanted something serious with her. She wasn't playing games. She returned texts within a reasonable amount of time. She remembered details I had mentioned weeks earlier. When her car broke down on a Tuesday night, she called me instead of an ex or some random friend with benefits. That meant something to me. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. Nothing crazy, just dinner at her favorite Italian place and a ring I had saved 6 months to buy. Her dad had given me his blessing over a poker game at his house the week before. He told me I was the first boyfriend he actually liked, which was apparently a big deal because Hannah's sister had married a guy who was still borrowing money from his parents at 32. Hannah cried, said yes, and we were married the following spring. The wedding was small. We had a backyard reception at her parents' place. I built a wooden archway for us to stand under while we said our vows. Her mom still has that archway in her garden. Her parents loved me. My parents loved her. Everyone thought we were the couple that had figured it out. For a while, we were. Or at least, I thought we were. The first 3 years of marriage were solid. We split bills fairly, took turns cooking dinner, and actually talked to each other like adults. I handled the mortgage and utilities. She covered groceries and her car payment. We had a joint savings account that we both contributed to every paycheck. The system worked. Then, sometime around year 4, things started feeling different. Not dramatically different, just off. It was like when you're driving and realize your alignment is pulling slightly left. Easy to ignore at first, but eventually you notice you're always correcting. Hannah started getting protective of her phone. Not in an obvious way. It was always face down on the table, always on silent. She took it to the bathroom with her, which she had never done before. When it buzzed during dinner, her eyes would flick to it like a reflex. Then she would force herself to look away. I noticed. I just didn't say anything yet. Then the conversations got shorter. I would come home after a 10-hour day of troubleshooting motor drives and replacing worn cables, in elevator shafts boots, scuffed shirt, damp from working in machine rooms with no ventilation, and she would barely look up from whatever she was scrolling through. One night in particular stands out. I walked in, dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, like always, and found her on the couch with her phone pressed into a throw pillow, like she was hiding it from a security camera. Her thumb was planted on the lock button, not resting there, guarding it. "Hey," I said. She flicked her eyes toward me for half a second and waved her hand, like I had interrupted something important. No smile, no "how was work?" Just a dismissal. I stood there for a beat and let the silence do its thing. Then I said, "Something smells like nothing. Are we eating or am I raiding the fridge tonight?" She didn't even look up. "Check the fridge." I repeated it back to her. "Check the fridge," like I was confirming a delivery order. "Cool, we're roommates now." Her jaw tightened. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Make it a thing." I took off my boots, slowly, deliberately walked into the kitchen and found a container of leftover lasagna with a sticky note on top. It said, "Made dinner," not "love you," not "hope you're hungry," just instructions. I leaned against the counter and called out, "What about Saturday? We said we'd check out that open house near Parker, remember?" She snapped back, "I'm tired." "Tired of what?" "Me." Her head finally turned. Her eyes were flat. I said, "I'm tired. Can you not interrogate me the second you walk in?" Interrogate. That word landed with a little click in my head. I filed it away. I heated the lasagna anyway. I set the table like I always did. 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 water glasses. I wasn't trying to win points. I was trying to keep our house from feeling like an airport terminal. I called her to dinner. 5 minutes, I said. She didn't move. Her phone was still half buried in the pillow. Her thumb was still on the lock button. I watched that thumb. It told me more than her mouth ever did. She finally got up like she was doing me a favor and sat down at the table. The phone came with her. Not in her pocket, not left on the counter, right next to her plate, face down with her palm hovering over it like a protective shield. I pulled my chair back. Phone stays off the table. House rule. Her eyes narrowed. "Excuse me? Phone off the table." "Why?" "Because you said so." "Because we're eating together. That's supposed to mean something." She let out a short laugh. It wasn't amused. It was more like a warning shot. "You're not my dad." I raised an eyebrow. "Good, because if I were, you wouldn't talk to me like that." "There it is," she said, her voice getting louder. "Control. You always do this. You can't stand not knowing everything." I didn't argue. I reached over, picked up her phone with 2 fingers like it was a dirty dish, and set it on the sideboard behind her. Not a toss, not a slam, just a move. She grabbed her fork like she was about to stab the plate. "Are you serious right now?" "Dead serious. You're being controlling." I took a slow breath, looked at my own plate, then back at her. "If you think basic respect is control, you've been living easy." Her chair scraped back. Unbelievable. I stood, lifted my plate, and took it with me toward the front door. "What are you doing?" she called. I opened the door, stepped onto the porch, and sat on the top step with my food. Cool night air. Quiet, honest eating. I called back. Eating without a third person at the table. She walked to the doorway, arms crossed, like she was about to deliver a verdict. "So you're going to sulk out there like a child?" I took a bite, chewed, swallowed, and said, "I'm not sulking. I'm adjusting." Adjusting to what? To the new version of this house where I don't compete with a screen for basic courtesy. Her lips pressed into a tight line. "You're making this weird." "No," I said, calm as a man reading a weather report. "You made it weird. I'm just naming it." She stared at me like she wanted a fight. I didn't give her one. After a second, she turned and went back inside. The door closed. Not slammed, just closed. Like a decision being made. That night she came home late, past 10. I heard the car, then the quiet footsteps. I didn't get up to greet her. I didn't play home monitor either. I stayed in bed with the light off, listening. She slipped under the covers without a word. I waited a full minute. "You okay?" I asked. Silence. "Hannah." She sighed. The kind of sigh people use when they want you to feel like a burden. "I need time to be alone," she said. "Please don't start." "Start what?"
This. Questions. Talking. Just don't.
I turned my head on the pillow and stared into the dark. "We're married. We're not supposed to be strangers who share a mortgage." "I said I need time," she repeated, sharper now. That was the first moment I knew a line had been crossed. Not because she needed space. People get tired, people get overwhelmed. But because she wanted space with the comfort of my paycheck still running in the background. She wanted me present as a resource and absent as a person. I didn't argue. I made a mental note and went quiet. The next morning, I left early for work. As I backed out of the driveway, I saw her through the kitchen window, phone in hand, coffee untouched, face glowing from that screen like it was the only light she needed. At the job site, my buddy Danny caught one look at me and smirked. Danny had been in the elevator trade forever. The guy could smell trouble like a frayed cable. We had worked together for almost 8 years by then. He had been through 2 divorces himself, and he had this sixth sense for when something was rotting in a man's home life. "You've got that sleeping next to a wall face," he said, setting down a hydraulic pump assembly. "I'm good," I told him. Danny snorted. "That's what men say right before they stop being good." He set the unit down and wiped his hands on his jeans. "Let me guess, she's on her phone all the time, gets defensive when you ask simple questions, and looks at you like you're interrupting her real life." I didn't answer, which was answer enough. Danny nodded like a doctor confirming a diagnosis. "Yeah, I've seen that movie twice. Didn't like the ending either time." "I'm handling it." "Yeah," he said, tapping his wrench against his palm. "Handle it with tools, not feelings. Don't get emotional. Don't beg, don't bargain. Just document, prepare, and execute. Women like that count on you being too attached to think straight. Don't give her that advantage." That line stuck with me all day. Not because Danny was some philosopher, but because he was right in the way that mattered. He had learned through pain what I was just starting to figure out through observation. That night, I tried again. One clean attempt. I cooked grilled chicken, rice, and salad. Nothing fancy, just effort. Hannah walked in, saw the plates, and her eyes flicked to the side like she was checking for cameras. Her phone went face down on the counter, but her hand still hovered near it. "Dinner," I said. "Sit." She hesitated. "I already ate." "You didn't. The fridge is full of my leftovers from yesterday." Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue. Then she closed it and sat down as if she were calculating which version of herself would win. I sat across from her. "Tell me what's going on." Nothing, she said too fast. "Okay, then tell me why nothing has you hiding your phone like it's classified." Her eyes flashed. "I'm not hiding it. You buried it in a pillow last night." "That's dramatic." "It's accurate." She leaned back and crossed her arms. "You're exhausted and you're taking it out on me." I nodded once. "Try again." Her jaw tightened. "I don't owe you a play-by-play of my thoughts. I'm not asking for a play-by-play. I'm asking for basic partnership. You've been acting like I'm an inconvenience. You're making it about you. It is about me. It's my marriage too." She picked up her phone like she couldn't stop herself. The screen lit for half a second, and she angled it away from me on instinct. Then she caught herself and locked it. Thumb on the button again, there it was, the reflex. I set my fork down. New rule, no phone at the table. And another rule, if you tell me don't start again, I'm going to start changing how this house works. Her eyes narrowed. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm informing you. Threats are emotional. This is logistics." She laughed again, that same dry exhale. "Oh my God, you think you're some tough guy now because you ate on the porch?" I tilted my head. I think I'm a man who's done begging for normal conversation. She stood up, her plate barely touched. "I'm going to bed." "Fine," I said. "But hear me. You don't get to shut me out and still keep the benefits like nothing changed." She froze at the doorway. Benefits?
Mortgage, car, bills, my attention, my time.
Those are benefits, and they're not automatic if you're treating me like a roommate. She turned and went upstairs. That weekend, I made my first real move. Not a speech, a move. I bought 2 plane tickets to Rome. A week, non-refundable. A reset button with an expiration date. I did it because part of me still wanted the version of us that didn't feel like a business arrangement. I came home Monday, put the printed itinerary on the kitchen counter, and waited until she walked in. Hannah glanced at it like it was a parking ticket. What's that, Rome? A week, just us. She stared, blinking once. Rome? Yeah, you want space? Fine. Let's take it somewhere that isn't this house. No phones, no half conversations. We go and we reset. Her face didn't soften. It tightened like I had cornered her with kindness. I don't want to go with you, she said flat. I held her gaze. Say that again. She exhaled sharply. I don't want to go with you. The room felt suddenly very quiet. Then she added like she was ordering a substitute at a sandwich shop. Can I take Brooke? I didn't move for a second. Not because I was shocked, because I was measuring her. Measuring how far she would go. Brooke, I repeated. Yeah, she said quickly. She's been wanting to travel, and honestly, I need a break. A break from what? From your husband.
Her eyes rolled. From everything, from pressure.
Interesting, I replied, because when people need a break, they don't usually ask their spouse to pay for a replacement. She threw her hands up. You're twisting it. No, I said. I reached for the papers, slid the second ticket out from the packet, and folded it once. Clean. I'm not financing a trip with a substitute. Not happening. Her face changed. It's non-refundable, Jake. Then it'll sit. Like a reminder.
She scoffed.
You're being petty. I'm being awake. She stepped closer, voice sharp. So what, now you're punishing me? I nodded toward the hallway. Guest room, starting tonight. Her mouth opened. You can't be serious. I can, I said. And I am. Separate accounts. I'm opening a new one tomorrow. Bills will be split. The car schedule goes on the fridge. My work hours are changing. I'll be leaving earlier. She shook her head, disgusted. You're insane. I shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe I'm done funding a life where I'm treated like background noise. Her phone buzzed. Her eyes dropped to it instantly. I watched that reflex, then looked back at her. You can take your space, I said, but you don't take my resources while you do. She glared. Fine. I'll go alone. Do what you want. Just understand the new access rule. We can be polite. We're not doing married while you act single.
She took the stairs 2 at a time.
The guest room door closed hard. That night, she tried the first soft play. I came home the next evening and found a mug of tea waiting on the counter. Honey, the kind she knew I liked when I was getting over a cold. She was sitting at the table, hands folded, voice gentle, like she had borrowed it from someone else. Hey, she said, can we talk? I set my lunch cooler down and looked at the tea. What's this? A peace offering. She gave me a small smile. I've been burned out, confused. I'm not trying to hurt you. I pulled out a chair and sat, but I didn't touch the mug. You're tired and confused, I said. But you were clear enough to ask if you could take Brooke to Rome on my dime. Her cheeks flushed. That came out wrong. It came out honest. She leaned forward, eyes glossy. I don't want us to blow up over this. I nodded once. Then stop lighting matches. I'm not, she insisted. I just need room to breathe. Room. Yes. A blank check? No. She reached across the table like she wanted to touch my hand. I slid my hand back and rested it on my thigh. She blinked at that. Recalculation. So what now? She asked. Now we keep it civil. My rules stay. Guest room. Separate money. Phone stays off the table when we do talk. And after your trip, we'll have a real conversation. Her brows lifted. After my trip?
Yep. You wanted space.
Take it. We'll talk when you're done playing invisible. She swallowed. Jake, come on. I leaned back, polite but not close. That's the setting you picked. Her face hardened for a second, then softened again like she was cycling through options. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay, I'll respect it." That sounded nice. It also sounded rehearsed.
2 days later, she left for the airport with one suitcase and the energy of a woman walking into a role she had practiced. No kiss, no real goodbye, just a quick, awkward hug like we were co-workers at a retirement party. "Text me if you need anything," she said, already drifting toward the door. I nodded. "Safe flight." She walked to the car and I watched her go, without that tight feeling men get when they're afraid to lose someone. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was taking inventory. The second her taillights disappeared, I moved. Not out of rage, out of clarity. I changed the garage code. I reset the Wi-Fi password. I updated my email passwords and the bank login. I put a sticky note on the fridge that said, "If you need access to anything, message me." Then I sat down at the kitchen table with a legal pad and started documenting every strange charge on the credit card from the past 6 months. Every time she said she was somewhere and the math didn't add up. Every night she came home late with an excuse that felt rehearsed. I pulled up our shared calendar and compared it against her stories. Yoga class on Tuesdays. The studio closed at 7, but she didn't get home until 9:30. Dinner with coworkers on a Thursday. Her office had been working remote that entire week. The lies weren't sophisticated. They just relied on me not paying attention. I opened a folder on the table and started building a timeline. Ticket purchase. Her refusal. Her request to take Brooke instead. The date she left. Bank transfers that didn't match any bills we had. Weird charges I had ignored because marriage means giving people the benefit of the doubt. Except trust isn't a blank check. It's a credit line and she had maxed hers out. I called Danny and asked if he knew a good notary who worked late. Danny didn't ask questions. He just said, "Yeah, handle with tools. I'll text you the address." The next 2 days, I worked like a machine. Early mornings at job sites, evenings organizing paperwork. I got copies of everything: the mortgage, both car titles, our marriage certificate, bank statements going back 2 years. I wanted facts. I wanted documentation. I wanted a foundation that couldn't be argued with when the time came. On the third day, I went to a discount grocery store near our place because we were out of basics and I wasn't going to starve while my wife was in finding herself mode. I was in the produce aisle comparing avocados like a normal human when I heard my name. Jake. I turned and saw Brooke. Brooke was Hannah's friend, but not the kind that played games. She was direct, athletic build, no-nonsense face eyes that didn't dance around topics. She was holding a basket with tomatoes, bread, and coffee, like she lived in reality. "Hey," I said neutral. "I didn't expect to see you." She smiled. Then her smile faltered. "Wait, aren't you supposed to be in Rome?" I looked at her for a second. The store noise faded behind the question. "I could ask you the same thing." Her eyebrows shot up. "What?" I held my basket steady. "Hannah said she wanted to take you instead of me." Brooke's face drained. She said, "What?" "She asked me if you could go instead of me. Then she went alone." Brooke stared, mouth slightly open. "She told me she was doing a solo reset. She didn't say anything about tickets, or you, or me." I nodded once. "That checks out." Brooke's grip tightened around the basket handle. "No, it doesn't. That's not okay." I kept my voice low. "What did she tell you exactly?" Brooke looked around like she suddenly remembered we were in public. Then she stepped closer and lowered her voice. She asked me some weird questions the past few weeks. Like, if someone asked where we were, what would I say? I thought she was talking about work drama or friends gossiping. I told her to stop being dramatic. I raised an eyebrow. "Did she ever mention Rome?" "No," Brooke said, sharper now. "Jake, what is going on?" I exhaled through my nose and pointed toward the end cap near the tomatoes. "Do you want to stand here and talk or keep shopping like nothing's happening?" Brooke set her basket down on the floor like she had decided shopping was over. "Talk." I nodded. "Show me your messages with her." Brooke hesitated for half a second, then pulled out her phone and started scrolling. Her face got tighter with every swipe. "Oh my God," she whispered. She stopped, then turned the screen toward me. There it was. Hannah had written, If he asks, say we're at a museum like the one with the big stairs. Brooke had answered, why would he ask me that? Hannah replied, just in case, don't make it weird. Another message from Hannah said, if you need, I can send you a selfie to post so it looks normal. Brooke replied, Hannah, stop. Hannah wrote, please, I just need you to be cool. Brooke's voice was thin. Jake, I didn't answer most of this. I thought she was spiraling. My eyes tracked down the thread. There was a screenshot of a boarding pass tightly cropped. No passenger name, just a flight and a date. Brooke scrolled further, jaw clenched. And this, she said. She opened an image. It was a hotel confirmation. 2 names listed. Neither one was Jake, neither one was Brooke. I felt my face go still, not angry, just final. Brooke swallowed. That's not me. No, I said. It's not.
She swiped to another photo. A shot of hotel carpet. 2 suitcases, 2 pairs of shoes. One pair was men's sneakers, and they weren't mine. I don't wear sneakers unless I'm running. Work boots or running shoes. Those were neither. Brooke's eyes flicked up to mine. Jake. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I just nodded. Send me everything. Brooke's fingers moved fast. Done. And listen, this isn't, I didn't know.
I believe you, I said, but I need to understand how long she's been building this.
Brooke's nostrils flared. I'm not letting her use my name like that, and I'm not watching you stand there and explain it away for her. I shifted my basket to one hand. I'm not explaining anything away. Good, Brooke said, because this is messed up. I glanced at the checkout lines, then back at her. Coffee tomorrow morning. I want the full picture.
Brooke nodded without hesitation. 9. The diner off the highway. The next morning, I walked into that diner. The waitress, mid-50s, sharp eyeliner, voice like she ran the place, looked at Brooke and me and smirked. Well, she said, setting down menus, you two look like you're either fixing something or breaking up. Brooke didn't flinch. I didn't either. I answered, both. The waitress chuckled. At least you're honest. What can I get you? Coffee, black. Same, Brooke said. When the waitress walked away, Brooke leaned forward. Okay, here's what I know. I kept my hands folded on the table. Start from the beginning. Brooke took a breath. A month ago, she started asking these casual questions. Things like, do you ever feel trapped? Or, if you needed a week away, how would you explain it so nobody panics? I thought she was being dramatic, like always. I watched her face. Brooke wasn't enjoying this. She was angry. She stopped mentioning you, Brooke continued. At first, it was little things. Jake's busy. Then it was like you didn't exist. If I asked how you were, she'd say, he's fine, and change the topic. I nodded slowly. So she was practicing a world where I didn't matter. Brooke grimaced. Yeah. I asked, did she ever say my name in a negative way? Brooke pressed her lips together. She'd say you were solid, like you were furniture, like you were dependable and not exciting. I gave a short, humorless breath. Furniture. Nice. I'm not saying it to hurt you, Brooke said. I'm saying it because it matters. She talked like you were a feature of her life, not a person. I nodded. That tracks. Brooke tapped her phone against the table, frustrated. Then the alibi stuff started. She would test me. If someone asked where I was, what would you say? I told her I'm not your spokesperson. She laughed it off, but she kept going anyway. She kept going, I said. Brooke nodded. She kept going. The waitress came back with coffee and poured it like she was fueling a fire. Then she wandered off, leaving us with the smell of pancakes and uncomfortable truth. Brooke looked me straight in the eye. Jake, I'm not going to sit here and watch you justify someone who used my name like a mask. I'm not justifying. Good. Brooke paused, then said something that surprised me. How about dinner? With me. I held her gaze calm. You sure you're not just trying to rewrite a bad day? Brooke didn't smile. She didn't play cute. This isn't a move. It's dinner. Two people who don't lie, talking about the weather. Fine, I said. I just won't sit there and pretend this is normal. I leaned back slightly, thinking. Not about romance, about reality. Thursday, I said. One condition. Brooke raised an eyebrow.
Only one.
Phone doesn't get a seat at the table, and honesty stays in the room. I'm not doing triangles. Brooke nodded once firm. Deal. I left the diner and went straight into action mode. I printed the screenshots, pulled bank statements, highlighted dates, made copies of the mortgage paperwork and the car title, took my name off auto payments that weren't mine, opened a separate account, and moved my direct deposit. Then I packed my important things: passport, work certifications, spare keys. I put them all in a locked storage bin in my truck. I labeled boxes in the garage: Hannah kitchen, Hannah bath, Hannah closet. Not dramatic, efficient. I sent her a message: account separated as discussed, car schedule on fridge. Contact me if you need access to anything. No emojis, no speeches, just terms. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. Hannah. Hey, landed. Miss you. I stared at the screen, set the phone down, and didn't answer. When she got back, she walked in like she had practiced being warm in the mirror. Hey, babe, she said, pulling her suitcase behind her. I brought you something. She held up a small paper bag, some kind of souvenir, probably bought at the airport gift shop on the way home. I stood near the kitchen doorway, calm and ready, arms at my sides, face neutral. Kitchen, I said. Her smile faltered. What kitchen? I repeated. I closed the front door after she stepped inside. Not aggressive, just final. She rolled her suitcase into the kitchen, still trying the sweet tone. Jake, come on, can we just talk like normal people? I missed you. The trip was good, but I kept thinking about us, about how we need to reconnect. I watched her face. I studied it. The way her eyes kept darting to gauge my reaction. The way her voice had that slightly too bright quality people use when they are selling something they don't believe in. I placed a folder on the table. Thick, neat, organized, color-coded tabs, dates highlighted, everything in chronological order. What's that? She asked, her voice tightening. Facts. Facts, she repeated, slowly scanning the folder like it might bite her. Jake, what is this? What have you been doing while I was gone? Research, I said. I opened it and slid out the printed hotel confirmation. 2 names. Neither one is mine. Neither one is Brooke's. The other name was a guy named Kevin. I had never heard of him, but the internet had. I found his social media in about 10 minutes. Software sales, lived in Boulder, posted a lot of pictures of hiking and craft coffee shops. Real adventurous type. Hannah's face changed fast. It's not what you think. I didn't react. I just slid out the shoe photo. 2 suitcases, 2 pairs of shoes. 1 pair belongs to a man. Not mine. I can explain, she said quickly. I was confused. I was under pressure. Things have been so hard lately, and I just needed to feel something different. I held up a hand. Facts beat speeches, Jake. Confusion doesn't book hotels. I cut in. Pressure doesn't hide behind your friend's name. Her eyes flashed. Then she tried another angle, softer. I was going through something. I didn't want to hurt you. I looked at her steady. You didn't want to lose resources. That's different. Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked down at the folder like it might offer her a better script. I slid over the separation forms. Sign this. Notary at 6 tonight. Her head snapped up. 6? Today. Yes, today. She shook her head, panic creeping in. You're moving too fast. I leaned back. No, I'm moving on time. You've been planning. I'm responding. She reached for my hand again like she could touch the decision out of me. Please, just give me a chance. I'll be present. I'll fix it. I'll put the phone away. I swear. Then she stood and came around the table, overly affectionate hands on my shoulders, trying to pull me into her like we were back in the old days. I missed you, she whispered. I want us. I want you. I stood up, gently removed her hands and stepped back. She blinked, startled. What is wrong with you? I answered calmly. People change when the price changes. Here's the new price. We're done. Her face twisted. So that's it. You're throwing us away. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm refusing to stand in a marriage where I'm treated like furniture. She tried anger. You don't even know what happened. I gestured to the folder. I know enough. She tried tears.
I didn't mean to.
I cut her off again, not cruel, just finished. You meant to keep the lifestyle while you took your freedom. You just didn't think I'd notice. She stared at me like she wanted to argue, but the folder kept talking without words. Here are the terms, I said. Guest room until you move your stuff. Bill schedule stays. Money stays separate. Communication stays clean. She swallowed hard. You can't do this. I already did. That afternoon, she tried a different tactic. She attacked me on my territory. I was on a job site in Highlands Ranch, modernizing an old freight elevator in a warehouse that was being converted to loft apartments. My foreman Mike called my name from the pit. Jake. His eyes narrowed. You've got company. I turned and saw Hannah, standing there in nice clothes, hair done, phone in hand like a weapon she didn't know how to use properly. My crew went quiet. Danny whistled softly under his breath, like he was watching a storm roll in. Hannah marched up. We need to talk, now. I looked at her, then at Mike, then back at Hannah. This is work, not a place for family scenes. Her voice rose. So you're just going to ignore me? I kept my tone level. If you want to communicate, email. She scoffed. Email. Are you serious? Serious, I replied. You don't get to show up here and perform. Danny leaned against a stack of rail brackets and muttered, she picked the wrong stage. Hannah shot him a glare. Stay out of it. Danny smiled. Gladly. Mike stepped forward, professional and bored. Ma'am, you can't be on site. Insurance liability. Hannah looked back at me, desperate now. Jake, please. I didn't soften. Not in public, not on my job, not here, not like this. Her eyes went hard. You're humiliating me. I raised an eyebrow. No, you're doing that all by yourself. She stood there another second, realized nobody was coming to rescue her narrative, and walked back to her car. Danny watched her leave and nodded once. Tools, not feelings. Exactly, I replied. The notary appointment happened that evening. No courtroom, no theatrics. A small office, fluorescent lights, quiet signatures. Hannah tried to stall, tried to negotiate with eye contact, tried to squeeze my hand under the table. I didn't play. After that, I moved. Not moved out like a dramatic exit. I moved like a man who doesn't sleep next to a problem anymore. I took a rental place 30 minutes away to start, then lined up something more permanent. I left a key on the counter at the old house with a note, pickup window for your things is Saturday 10 to 12, garage access only. Saturday morning, she showed up with her sister in a rented van. I didn't invite the sister in. I didn't need a mediator. I needed a schedule. At 11:58, Hannah was still in the garage dragging boxes, like she wanted me to come out and beg. I stood inside the doorway. 2 minutes, I said. She glared. You're timing me? Yes, because you like gray areas. I don't. At noon, I pressed the garage door button. It started rolling down. Her eyes widened. Jake? Seriously. Window closed. The door finished shutting. Clean, quiet, final. That Thursday, I met Brooke for dinner, not as an escape, as proof that respect still existed in the world. We sat at a small table in a simple place. No fancy lighting, no performance. Brooke set her phone face down and pushed it away without me asking. Thank you, I said. Brooke smirked. It's not hard to act like a grown-up. We talked about work, about the way Denver traffic makes people lose their minds, about how her job had been chaos lately. Normal stuff, real stuff. Halfway through, she looked at me and said, "You okay?" I nodded. "I'm clear." "That's different," she said. "It is," I agreed. A week later, Hannah tried one last move. She found out where Brooke lived, probably through mutual friends, and showed up there thinking she could regain control by confronting the new variable. Brooke told me the story afterward, calm but firm. She knocked like she owned the door, Brooke said. I opened it a crack. What did she say? I asked. Brooke mimicked Hannah's tone perfectly, sweet with teeth. She said, "We need to talk about Jake." Like she was scheduling maintenance. "And you?" I asked. Brooke's eyes sharpened. I said, "Email him." Hannah tried to push. Brooke didn't move. She said, "You think you won?" And you said, Brooke shrugged. I said, "This isn't a contest.
It's a boundary. Then I closed the door. When Hannah finally cornered me after that outside a grocery store parking lot of all places, because she loved public places when she needed an audience, she came in hot.
So that's it, she snapped. You're really doing this. You're just replacing me. I looked at her steady hands in my jacket pockets, voice quiet enough that she had to listen. I'm not replacing anything. I'm removing what doesn't work. Her eyes narrowed. You're acting like you're perfect. I almost laughed, but I didn't. I'm not perfect. I'm just not available for disrespect anymore. She swallowed, then tried to soften one last time. Jake, we had a life. I nodded. We had a setup. Her face twisted. You're so cold. No, I'm stable. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You're really going to throw away years? I met her eyes and gave her the last line she earned. I don't build where the foundation is being damaged on purpose. She stared at me like she wanted to argue, but there was nowhere to go. The story she had written needed me to play the clueless husband. I wasn't in it anymore. I got in my truck and drove away. 4 months later, the divorce was finalized. Colorado requires a 91-day waiting period, and Hannah tried to drag it out even longer with requests for mediation and reconciliation periods. The judge wasn't interested. Neither was I. We sat in that courtroom for maybe 20 minutes. She cried. I didn't. I signed the papers and walked out into the parking lot like a man leaving a job he should have quit years ago. She got half the equity in the house. I got the truck, my tools, and the retirement account I had been building since I was 22. She wanted the furniture. I let her have it. Easier to start fresh anyway. The house sold in 9 days to a cash buyer who wanted to flip it. I walked through one last time before closing to make sure I hadn't left anything behind. I found one of her phone chargers behind the nightstand. I left it on the counter and locked the door behind me. I moved to Lakewood and rented a 2-bedroom apartment with a garage bay included. I set up my workbench the first weekend and bought new furniture that I picked out myself. Nobody else's taste to consider. I took a position with a company that specialized in high-rise elevator installations across the Front Range. Better pay, better hours, and a boss named Carl who had been in the trade for 30 years and didn't believe in micromanagement. On my first day, Carl shook my hand and said, "Do your job, don't cause drama, and we'll get along fine." That was the whole speech. Honestly, it was perfect. Hannah's situation fell apart pretty quickly after the divorce. Kevin from Boulder dumped her about 2 months in. Apparently, spontaneous gets old when rent is due and your girlfriend just lost half her household income. She moved back in with her parents for a while. Her dad texted me about it, said he was sorry, and said she had made the biggest mistake of her life. I told him I appreciated him reaching out, but there was nothing left to discuss. She tried contacting me 3 more times after that. The first time was an email, long and rambling. Personal growth, second chances, lessons learned. I deleted it without responding. The second time was a voicemail on my birthday. She was crying, apologizing, saying she finally understood what she had thrown away. I listened to it once, then blocked the number. The third time she showed up at my apartment complex and sat in her car in the parking lot for an hour before security asked her to leave. Brooke saw the whole thing from the window. That was actually how I found out Brooke had been staying over more often than not by then. We had been taking things slow, but somewhere along the way, her toothbrush ended up in my bathroom and her coffee mug ended up in my cabinet. And it just felt right. I'm not saying every betrayal has a clean ending. Most don't. Most people don't get the perfect receipt, the perfect witness, the perfect timing in a grocery store produce aisle. But I got enough. Enough to stop begging for honesty from someone who had turned dishonesty into a lifestyle. Enough to stop confusing patience with loyalty. Enough to realize that love without respect is just a bad contract with pretty memories attached. The thing about elevators is that people only notice them when they fail. They step in, press a button, expect the machine to carry them safely because all the invisible systems are supposed to work. Marriage is not that different. Most of it is invisible too. Trust, respect, timing, maintenance, little checks, little repairs. You can ignore the warning sounds for a while. You can pretend the vibration is normal. You can tell yourself the doors are only sticking because the system is tired. But when the foundation is being damaged on purpose, you don't keep writing. You get out. You shut it down. You call the problem what it is. That's what I did. Hannah wanted me to be a resource, a backup plan, a paycheck, a man waiting at home while she lived another life behind a locked screen. She wanted me dependable, but not demanding, present, but not inconvenient, married when bills were due, and invisible when freedom sounded more exciting. She thought I would stay confused because I loved her. She thought love would make me easy to manage. She was wrong. I love the version of her I married. I love the woman in the yellow sundress, the woman who didn't check her phone during tacos, the woman who wore proper boots to Red Rocks and talked about Europe under a sunset. But that version was either gone or never as real as I thought. And once the truth showed up standing in front of me in a grocery store, holding tomatoes, bread, and coffee, I stopped negotiating with the lie. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I didn't chase her through airports or read her messages at 2 in the morning, trying to punish myself with more details. I documented, prepared, and executed. Tools, not feelings. In the end, she got the furniture. I got my life back.